We are live.
I feel alive.
Tell your friends you're listening to the Verhoeven Effect podcast. I'm Conlon.
And I'm Nathan.
Andrew.
Andrew's back. I think you've been
How
on.
many years of absence?
Well, have you been on other Verhoeven Effects? I can't remember.
Yeah, occasionally, but not like for a while.
Okay. We gave you a doozy to come back to. At least it was a free doozy. So.
Okay.
Well, I mean, not a doozy. It's a fine film.
Yeah, this is when we're back in the Nathan's picks scenario of. Yeah, let's just do this director.
Yeah.
And because we've done other movies and we've liked them, so. Let's
Yeah, I
go
don't.
back to the '60s.
Oh fuck! I even looked it up. There's an American Greed Factor we did Point Blank when we were doing the Criterion Collection stuff.
Yeah.
And so that's one of his early films, also with Lee Marvin in it. Not sure. I don't think you were there for that because But yeah, so yeah, yeah. We looked for that. We've done that movie. So and then we went to the next movie, which is Hell in the Pacific, which Nathan couldn't find on streaming, and then I just found it on YouTube. So it's like,
Yeah.
it's free. So
It was there.
yeah, and it looked totally fine. Didn't look like it was compromised in any way to bypass some censorship or looking for money or anything like that. So
Yeah. So yeah, we decided to go. We're gonna do some this will be the highlight reel of John Borman's, because tonight we're doing Hell in the Pacific, and some of the movies we're gonna skip, but we're gonna do like his most well-known ones, The Deliverance. We already did Zardoz. We're not gonna redo that. Exorcist 2, The Heretic, Excalibur, The Emerald Forest, and then I think what was the last one? Last two are gonna be The General and the Tailor of Panama.
okay.
I think
Yeah, because didn't you say like he's still alive and making movies like in his 90s or something?
His last movie was 2014.
Okay.
Yeah, there's another one coming out, but it's to be determined. But yeah, he is.
But none of them are of high quality. It seems like so.
No, yeah, it's like he's having fun. He's 92 years old, and like did an interview recently. Like I looked, it's like, oh, okay.
I mean, Sidney Lumet is still like he made movies like up until his 90s, and his last movie was still really good. So
Yeah. Oh no, it can happen. But John Borman's had I guess an eclectic career. I'd say.
yeah.
He's done a lot of unusual.
Yeah, I guess I never looked up who he is. I assume he's like British or something. What is he?
British. Well, he's
Okay.
from. Yeah, he's from Middlesex, England.
Okay. The perfect sex.
Yeah.
Yeah, how is Sex in the Middle? I've never had it.
Sounds like a really wrong porn about a child's TV program.
Sex in the Middle. No.
So I guess I should have my other spiel. So, yeah, tonight we have another very special episode. We have the 1968 movie Hell in the Pacific. Came out December 18th, 1968, when none of us were alive. So
Nope.
this came out the same year as Planet of the Apes. I didn't look up any other movies. That's just I happened to look at that one, which what we did recently. That's what actually started our. I think that was the start of our years of movies.
Okay.
I think we did that one first, and then we did Barbarella because we did Barbarella because it was episode 69. I thought we should do a sexy episode for 69.
That's right.
And then we got into the 70s.
Yeah.
But yeah, Planet of the Apes did line up with our episode listings. So, directors John Borman. Cinematographer is Conrad L. Hall, which I didn't look up any of his stuff, so here I do it now. I did American Beauty, Road to Perdition. Huh? Okay.
He's from French Polynesia.
Okay.
And he's an American. He became an American citizen. So he was a cinematographer. He was very familiar with filming in that part of the world, which is why they picked him, because he was very good at He was also sick during a lot of the early sequences in the movie, so John Borman had to run the camera and direct.
Okay.
Once they got him back, because the reason they hired him is he really knew how to shoot around the light in that part of the world.
Oh, okay.
They shot in.
Yeah, where did they shoot?
It was basically shot in the Pacific Ocean near the Philippines and the Philippine Sea.
Okay. Right.
Little islands off of there. I forget. There was also another country. It's basically what we call Micronesia now. As part of it. But yeah, it was shot. It's deeply in the North Pacific area. So, Japanese American film crew, and then a Chinese ship captain that would take them around to the different islands for shooting. And because John Borman didn't understand, he's like, yeah, the Japanese and the Chinese hate each other. It's like always like you had to like cajole the captain into doing his job and get the film crew to do their thing. And there was a lot of fun making this movie.
It was written by Alexander Jacobs and Eric Barakavici?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Let's see here. Jacobs, he wrote Point Blank before this, so they worked together.
Yeah.
Not much after this, or at least not the thing I recognize. And then the other guy, I don't really recognize. He wrote a lot of TV, it looks like.
Yeah. It's a lot of Hawaii Five-0 and stuff like that.
Three the Hard Way sounds familiar. I'm not sure what that is.
Yeah, it sounds familiar too. I just don't know. Sure.
Oh, The Man from U.N.C.L.E. Well, he wrote one episode. But yeah, he did a lot of TV, so. I mean, like, how much do you write for this movie?
Yeah, Barakavici was mainly known for doing most of the script work on the Shogun miniseries of the 1980s. So that was it was all that wheelhouse of work.
And the cast is Lee Marvin and Toshiro Mifune, which we know from the Kurosawa movies. He's usually the star of those. Also around this time there was John Frankenheimer did like a Grand Prix movie, and Mifune was in that as like a Grand Prix driver. So he was in a lot of movies around this time too. So
yeah,
not just Kurosawa movies.
It was because of Lee Marvin that they got him.
Okay.
Because Lee Marvin was actually a fairly big star at the time this movie was made, and he essentially had like he had choice of what movie he wanted to be in next and who the director was, and essentially Final Cut for some reason.
Huh.
It's a deal they made with actors then to get them in movies, and he said, "I will this to John Borman for this production," and the people producing the movie were not happy with that. Yeah, we want a Japanese actor. He's a great guy. I've heard about this guy. I want to work with him, and we're gonna film it in like the Pacific. It's like this is gonna cost like a lot of money.
Did it? Because it's only two people, so.
No, yeah. It was one of the highest productions at the time.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, it was almost $5 million for the era to make the movie.
Okay.
And a lot of that had to do with getting around and different set problems they had.
Yeah.
Because supposedly they lost $4 million, which caused the distributor to lose the business.
Huh.
So.
Well, I never heard of it before, so maybe that's why it's free on YouTube. So.
Yeah, it was not. It is
just dropped in the hole somewhere.
It is seen as a latter day like cult film, like John Borman's. It's not like it's not widely popular like some of his other stuff, but it's seen as something. It's like, oh, this was actually really cool the way it was shot and some of the chances they took, because this would be like taking, I don't know, who would you like Harrison Ford at the apex of his career and just putting him in a really weird movie where not much English is spoken and we're just doing really cool shots. We're having fantasy scenes of people killing each other, but they're not really. We're having kind of weird musical choices and and then a lot of Christ imagery, and it's like, this is it. It's a World War II movie. Okay. Shoot.
Yeah, and both those guys were like were veterans of World War II. So
Lee Marvin was a scout sniper in the Marines in the island hopping
yeah,
campaign.
he got a couple Purple Hearts. So.
Yeah, he would go.
Because also, I think he left the Marine Corps like as a private, so I think he punched a lot of people. So.
Probably. Well, his job is what described by people is he would go in with a couple other guys 2 days before the main invasion of wherever they were, and his job was to shoot people from behind the enemy lines. Confusion. It's like that's super dangerous.
Yeah.
Especially fighting the Japanese, who are not known for like, oh yes, you're our prisoner now. We'll take care of you. It's like no, no. They you did not want to get caught by the Japanese. It's like that old poet. It's like save the last bullet for yourself. It's so yeah.
Well, it's like when Berlin was falling, like people were going in droves to try to surrender to the Americans because they knew they'd actually treat them with, at least pretend to treat them with respect or like they're human beings.
Yeah, what they say in German, like surrender to the White Star, not the Red Star, or something. Yeah, they would tell their kids that they were like, go for the White Star, not the Red Star. Red Star means death because we did some bad stuff in Russia. We don't talk about it, but yeah, they're kind of mad at us. So yeah, these guys both. Buffoni was a quartermaster in the Imperial Japanese Army, and Lee Marvin was in the Marines. And yeah, so they both.
And here he plays like a Marine aviator. So
yeah.
I don't know what plane he had, but
yeah, you never see it.
Well, like when you first see him, he's kind of like mumbling to himself, like he's like talking to a co-pilot to eject out of the airplane, and it's like he didn't. And so I have no idea what he would be flying. So.
Well, I mean, Hellcats were 2-seaters back then, right? Or no?
I don't know.
Yeah,
because that was the original carrier plane with Hellcat, and then there was the. God damn it. Mustang, I thought was more in the Europe, but that was a 1-seater, not a 2-seater.
Yeah, and also I don't know like necessarily like what plane a Marine aviator would be using. Like they might be doing close air fire support with something else, because that'd be more their thing. Because otherwise, you just have a Navy aviator, flying and bombing things. So. I don't know if they probably deploy off of a ship or something, or some sort of quickly made airport. But I have no idea. It's not important. I was just trying to think about it.
Marine aviator aces during World War II. What did they fly?
Well, I think aces imply they shot down things, which that's not necessarily. Maybe, I don't know.
Well, this guy was an ace, and he flew a Vought Corsair.
Huh.
And he shot down Zeros.
Okay.
But yeah, there were so many planes during World War II, I can't keep track of them.
So yeah, it's a single-seater.
Yeah, I'm trying to find like 2-seaters.
I don't know. It could have been. I mean, they had radios.
There's also
didn't they?
like scout recon planes that launch from like ramps on the side of ships and shit.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's weird. There's a lot of planes, so I don't know which one it would necessarily be.
But yeah, I suppose we don't. Any other preamble to the setup that we know about this movie before we start again?
In the Pacific somewhere. We don't even know what time during the war it is.
Yeah.
Because we're not sure, but we find out later, like they find an island that's obviously American and Japanese forces were fighting each other, so we're probably near the end of the war.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and you get that Life magazine, which is kind of depicting the fall of the Japanese Empire. So.
Yeah.
So we'll start with Act 1. We get credits on the Pacific. The sun rises from the ocean, which is a pretty cool scene. It's just like filmed in, undercranked to make it go faster. But there's like nothing impedes the horizon that would necessarily clue you that like it's going, Benny Hill fast, except that the sun is rising too fast for that to be real. So, which kind of gives you just the immensity of the ocean. So it's like, look at this. It's all doing nothing and everything at the same time. We cut to an island. We have a man, Toshiro Mifune, which there they give him the credits. They give him the name of Captain Suriko Kurata. I'm just gonna call him Mifune for this whole thing. So, and like Marvin gets the name of American Pilot, so I'm just gonna call him Marvin and Mifune. So for the rest of this, because it's kind of fun, it's like a tag team. He watches the shore, which at first I thought there was like a body on the shore, but it's just like this driftwood or whatever.
Yeah, it does look like a figure laying on its side.
Yeah.
I don't know if they picked that for that reason. It's like, oh, this will make them wonder.
He walks out to the beach and he looks around with binoculars. Is this a parachute or is this like a life raft or something?
It's a life raft.
Okay, all right. So yeah, Mifune goes to investigate. Then we see Lee Marvin, American Pilot, is talking to himself. Which here I wrote about a co-pilot or something. And not bailing out, which again I'm not sure. But again, like these people had radios, so maybe there was another plane he was talking to, and he's trying to tell him to bail out, and he didn't. So yeah, he's kind of like mumbling to it. Weirdly, it's like weirdly Marvin almost kind of looks and sounds like Ron Perlman in this movie.
Yeah, kind of. He does.
But but Marvin has his own distinct features and voice, so I don't know why I thought that, but I don't know. But yeah, Mifune's looking around, but then he just like misses. He doesn't see Marvin. And so he runs back to the beach. Marvin, like knowing someone is around, which he seems delirious, right? Is that what's going on here, or is it like
initially confused,
or is he just like survived a plane crash and so he's just
because
he does like later on he has a limp that I'm not sure if it was incurred by the crash or one of their encounters or falling from a tree or whatever. So, let's see here. So yeah, Marvin knowing someone is around, it like moves away from his spot he was hiding in. Marvin sees Mifune grab his raft, and then he follows after him. Here we get like the almost like childish, just like it's like a monkey just like trying to like follow somebody around, hope they drop food or something like that. Mifune goes to the gear. It says USMC on it, so now we know he's like a marine aviator, and he's got the captain lapels on it. I saw some trivia that said like he'd be too old for that, but it's like, man, it's World War II. They threw people at everything, so who cares? So, yeah, maybe he's too old to be a captain, but whatever. But also, I think Marvin was like 44 when he shot this. Is like he looks pretty good for 44, and he's probably smoking and drinking every day. So. But also, they seem to have like wild like weight fluctuations, and I'm not sure if they filmed this in orders. That was probably just the film production, a general like lack of food during the film production. But I have no idea. The Chinese were not feeding them.
Here's the thing, like with the production, real quick. This is to set this up, because John Borman talked about that. It's because Mifune, of course, spoke no English. Half the crew didn't speak English. There were translators there, but Mifune had his own translator. And of course you had Lee Marvin, who was really behind John Borman in this movie, like, I want to get this made. But John Borman and Mifune just did not take direction. And he wanted to act like his crazy samurai character in earlier movies, and Borman was like, no, I want this to be serious. I want you to be more serious. We don't bring levity to this. And so they would shoot a scene with Lee Marvin, and he would, like, the translator never say anything. Mifune would just act like his kind of loony, funny characters from some of the Kurosawa films, and then he would have to speak to the translator. It's like, no, you're not doing it right. Don't act like this. Then Mifune would scream at his translator for saying that to him, but then look at John Borman and smile and nod, like, yes. But it wasn't, and it got so bad at one time. John Borman was like, I want you, he was telling the translator, he said, I want you to tell him this like I am saying this to you. This is not how we're going to shoot this scene. We're not having a fucking party here. We're going to do this right. And the translator was like, please don't make me say that to this man. And he's like, do your job. Tell him what I said. Mifune slaps his translator yells at him for talking to him that way, and then looks at John Borman and is like, yeah, okay, and then does exactly what John Borman said. Meanwhile, this translator was like a whipping boy for and John Borman, like, he really, it kind of affected him. He's like, I totally, because he knew Kurosawa. When he went to Japan, he talked to Kurosawa, and as he was developing this film, they had some correspondence, and he was like asking, like, what do you think I should do with the story? What do you think I should do with this? Well, years later, in the 80s, when Kurosawa was promoting Ran, he was in England and he met with John Borman again, and John Borman made some joke at something that they were having a dinner for Kurosawa, and he says, yeah, I tried to direct Mifune, and he goes, I failed, and he was telling these funny stories. And Kurosawa was known to be kind of a really reserved guy most of the time. He was like a typical, like, Japanese kind of straight-laced guy. But when John Borman sat down next to him in English, he says, I too could never direct Mifune. It was like, oh my God, the guy who made him said, yeah, I could never really direct. He would only kind of listen to me and then do what he wanted to. But somehow it worked. So John Borman said later he felt better. And then I guess Mifune opened a restaurant in Germany. It was a Japanese restaurant. And he went there and ate. And he's had pretty expensive restaurants for the time. And he went to pay, and he was like, no. People who ran the restaurant said, no, he left a list of people that could never pay in his restaurants. And you're on that list. You can eat here for free as much as you want to, because it was the only closest thing he got to an apology. Oh, you can eat for free. And then of course he felt a lot better when Kurosawa was like, I could never direct him either, you know? So yeah, so when Mifune and Borman were both giving this poor translator a nervous breakdown, Lee Marvin was like, John, I'm gonna go drink on the other end of the island when you're ready to shoot this fucking movie. But you got to get this worked out, because he didn't want to get in the middle of any production shit. He's like, this is an actor-director thing. I'm going to go get drunk. So then the clock was running. It's like, okay, I got to make Mifune do something like what I want him to do and get Lee back here before he's so slaughtered he can't act. He's just falling over drunk. So there was all kinds of pressure. And then people were getting weird sickness on top of that, because they're in the middle of the ocean, eating weird food. There was all the Japanese. He said the Japanese camera crew was the most disciplined crew he'd ever worked with. Huh. He says he worked with British camera crews and guys like that on movie sets. They're eating chocolate bars. They're smoking. They're kind of standing around like, what are we doing now, boss? You know, the Japanese people would just stand there and wait all day until you said, okay, roll film. You know, they were real straight laced. But he says the thing with the Chinese that were doing all the shipping and the Japanese camera crew, there was so much tension there. It was like this movie just became hell to shoot. It was hell because we're having all these different.
It bled into the movie.
Issues, and you know, and the guy who's really behind all this and who really wanted to get this movie made is like, well, I'm gonna go drink in my hut until you figure out how to do it. No pressure. So yeah, that's whenever you watch this movie, have all that in mind.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, it starts to make a lot of sense why this movie looks the way it does, why it feels the way it does.
Yeah, and I imagine like all that rain is real, right, in the movie.
It would have to be.
So that's just happening nonstop throughout the production, probably.
I mean, well, they were trying to film like I forget. There was a time when they were filming like the first raft scene, and when they were trying to get past the tide break, and they were just like guys out there on coral. And I didn't realize that John Borman and one of his production people got swept into the water and got sliced up with coral.
Oh, yeah.
You get really bad blood infections from being sliced up by coral. So that, like, delayed things a while. Because I guess the coral, it's a living organism. It's like, oh, cool, I'm in this cut. I can grow in here. And you got all that stuff dug out of you and get all kinds of penicillin or whatever the hell they give you, or sulfur. And yeah, so there was like stuff like that on the set. So yeah, everything you see is as is.
Let's see here. Marvin makes a sound. I think he breaks a stick on like a log. And then
Yeah.
the two come upon each other with weapons, which they basically just have sticks. But Marvin has a knife and a stick, so he's kind of got the upper hand. But
Knife and a
Mifune,
branch.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, Mifune has a more like he has like a kind of a he has a
He's
kind
made a
of
katana out of bamboo or something.
yeah, yeah, but like he's even like wrapped some stuff on the one of the handles, so it's more sword like. And then there's just a montage of fatal outcomes, which this is like, if you watch Point Break, there's a lot of things like that where just kind of things happen. You're like, what's going on? And they kind of rewind, and then like it's like, oh, okay, this didn't happen, but it's like a preview of what could have happened. So,
Yeah, it's like because Mifune like breaks his neck with his sword stick, his staff.
yeah,
And then there's another scene where like Marvin sweeps the staff aside and stabs him with the K-bar twice.
yeah,
You're like, oh wait, the movie's over? Oh no, they're just back. It's like, oh okay, huh? They're going through like possibilities.
yeah. Which I think these are like in the trailer, which that would be even more confusing. It's like, did he just kill him? Is that the end of the movie? They come back to reality and they kind of circle around each other. Marvin spots the drinking water and like tries to go for it, but Mifune guards the water. Marvin backs off. He heads in the jungle and like tries to gather water from leaves, which he
Yeah.
kind of starts licking the leaves and like that should work, but then he stops and he tries to see if he can kind of like funnel it into his hands, but then that doesn't work. We cut to Mifune, looks at the sun, and he uses a magnifying glass to start a fire. Marvin finds a body of water, but it's like too like salty to drink. He finds other water, but it's like riddled with bugs and disease, probably. So
Yeah, just looks like you got a handful of water with maggots in it, or
yeah.
something very awful scene.
And then Mifune like lights a bunch of like bonfires. So I'm not sure if this is like to be a signal fire, but he also just starts tossing the fire into the jungle to like, I guess, smoke out Marvin.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. So, there's also we get kind of like the eerie music that like reminds me of the Ghostbuster kind of like interstitial sting music. You know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about?
Yes, it's very
Like
odd.
the
It was kind of a staple of '60s movies. They had music like that,
yeah.
using like a sitar, but they were like torturing the instrument somehow.
Then the jungle gets smoked up, and then Marvin is forced to retreat to the beach. Mifune chases him again. Marvin climbs a vine to get away from Mifune and like his stick. So, Marvin's coughing a lot. A lot of just like almost like childish encounters here, where it's like the only thing stopping him was like climbing a vine, but also he
Well,
had the high ground
Marvin
then. So
throws a rock at Mifune's head, which would have actually killed him. Rock like this big, he just flicks it back on him. And it's like, oh, they're fighting like monkeys or something. Like,
Yeah.
they're doing things like that at each other.
Mifune strips down and goes into the water to wash up, and then Marvin makes a break for the water. Mifune grabs a fish out of an underwater trap, so that's kind of like the other thing he was out there for. And then he starts like ripping its guts out and eating it. So, which I guess that's what you'd have to do. You know, it's survival. So, and Mifune sees Marvin and he starts giving chase, and then Marvin tries to talk his way into some water while holding out his canteen. Mifune runs into the smoke to attack Marvin, but like Marvin escaped like through the smoke and like around Mifune, and he's able to like get some water, like kind of handfuls some water, and it looks like he dips a little bit of his canteen in the water, and then he like runs away. We cut to it's nighttime. Mifune is on watch. He hears weird sounds and patrols the perimeter. Where here it kind of sounds like it's animal sounds, but like you never see any animals on this island.
Yeah,
Other than like
nothing
other
else.
than like hermit crabs and like the
Yeah.
clams and fish. Like that's it.
Oh yeah, that's right. He does have those little crabs later. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. He starts playing with them or whatever.
Yeah.
Marvin starts tossing stuff around to mess with Mifune, so he's just kind of like trying to keep him awake and alert. And then Marvin tries to get some sleep in a tree, so he's just like standing up in a tree and like lays his head on a branch. It's like that's precarious. But presumably he gets more sleep than Mifune does. So have that be the end of Act 1, because we have two guys. It's World War II. One guy's a Marine, the other one's a Japanese Navy guy, and so they're supposed to kill each other. So that's the plot of this movie. So. We got Act 2. It's the next day. Marvin's trying to descend his water bottle to pick up fresh water as Mifune is sleepy. He gets some water in the canteen, but Mifune wakes up and pulls on the rope, and then Marvin falls down, like on Mifune and the water stash, and now they're all out of water. So it doesn't seem worth it. But, so yeah, then Marvin runs away again. I think here this might where he got his leg injury. I'm not sure because he does have a leg injury for like a moment in the movie, and then just kind of disappears like when they start getting on the raft together. So a little bit. Either that or just whatever day they were filming, Marvin had like pulled a hamstring or something. So, Mifune has rigged his camp with seashells to act as warning when Marvin is around. Marvin goes in the ocean and breaks.
You have a weird like kaleidoscope of sound from those seashells because he sets up like probably 50 of these alarms, but they constantly play in like overlapping discordant. Because it's like
they're like chimes.
Mifune's paranoia is growing with each chime. Sound design in this movie is kind of cool. They do a lot. Of it.
Yeah, especially for 60 movies where like it's not usually known for their sound design. So.
Yeah, no, they definitely got some stuff here.
Marvin goes in the ocean and breaks one of Mifune's fish traps, and then Marvin eats a fish. Well, this just seems like petty by Marvin because he's like now broken the fresh water and a food trap. It's like, what are you doing? So,
we're gonna die together.
Then Mifune starts building a spike fence. Which did you ever do this when you were a child? I remember just days of like taking a stick and then grinding it on the cement until it was a spike. You guys ever do that?
Yeah, I did stuff like that.
I didn't. No.
Oh yeah, I just had spiky sticks all over the place when I was a kid.
The most dangerous thing we did was like that I remember was like Walnut Wars, but with like we got like boxes from there was a place that sold appliances, and they had the thick cardboard boxes, and they had the hand grips on them. And we'd cut those down into shields, and we'd throw walnuts like this big, big as baseballs, but lighter. But you could get some real velocity off of them, and we'd throw those at each other.
Do you consider that more or less dangerous than your bottle rocket wars?
No, bottle rocket wars were like that was peak stupid, but the walnut wars were a good precursor because those fell from trees and didn't require fire. But still, somebody would take a shot to the face, and you're lucky nobody lost an eye or teeth or anything. But we had walnut shields.
Andrew, have you ever been part of or witnessed a bottle rocket war?
Yeah, we did that.
Oh, okay.
We did bottle rockets at each other, and like timed it so obviously tear the stick off, light it, and just like okay, wait, okay, throw it, and then like aim it.
Well, Nathan they'd have him and his friends would have like these PVC tubes, and then they have the bottle rocket sitting on the edge of the tube, and then when it burns enough, it falls in the tube, and you can point it at somebody and fire the rocket.
We weren't that sophisticated. We used our bare hands.
I know there's kind of like the bottle rocket, like I don't know, roulette or whatever. You just light it and you just throw it in the air, like giving a 360, and it might go anywhere. So.
We were putting like stuff in Roman candles and pipes, bottle rockets. They had the cops called on us. So like, what the hell are you guys doing? Because
the neighbors mad.
Going to houses.
And then also take like the pack of like the cat firecrackers, light those and toss them like they're hand grenades.
I mean, it makes sense. Fucking
and they had forts and stuff too, so you're sitting there blocking the the hand grenade.
I mean, it got to the point like even I was putting like safety glasses on and stuff.
In the 90s, who thought of it?
And I did this like probably into my 20s. We were still doing shit like that. Like it never really stopped.
So yeah, Marvin starts making a racket outside of the camp, banging on his canteen.
Yep.
This is one bit of it. This is the canteen cup. Still standard issue.
same exact thing.
Yeah, this one is at least. The canteen itself is different. It's plastic. It has a special lid on it that has like where you can put like a straw that can hook up to like, if you have like chemical gear on, you can still like drink your water without being contaminated and stuff like that. But yeah, these can be used for anything. Mostly the canteen fits right in here, but like I think it's just for like storage capacity, because otherwise you're supposed to boil the water in here and then pour that in your canteen. But this also can be a shaving kit or whatever you need to do. But you can, so I've got these little things on here so you can put it in the fire and burn your water. So
Yeah.
yeah, so yeah, he's banging on this. He's got a canteen and this, and he's banging on it, making all sorts of weird sounds. He even seems to like be affecting himself with all the weirdness. So he's making them both go mad. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming a lot of this behavior is due to lack of food and water.
yeah. Oh yeah,
There
there's
seems to be a lot of mania here.
delirium and exhaustion and all that stuff. Yeah. Then we cut to Marvin is sneaking around again, trying to get the drop on Mifune. He takes out a magazine, like a Colt or a 1911 magazine. He doesn't have the gun; he just has a magazine, and he starts tossing bullets into the fire. Mifune hears them dropping in the sand, so he gets kind of like moves around, like looking at where it's coming from. And then the bullets start blowing up and like sending shrapnel around, which I don't think would happen if a bullet explodes outside of a barrel. Like basically nothing happens, but it's fun here. So
Yeah, because they're playing like movie, like Old West ricochet sounds.
yeah.
It's caroming around, and then you do hear animals screaming too.
Yeah. You're like, is that the bullets? Is that the local animals? Yeah. Mifune hits the deck, and then Marvin takes a piss on him. So it's like, just gotta take the opportunity, I guess, to show your dominance. And then
runs into the surf to clean.
Well, he tosses some stuff at Marvin and even hits him with something, but then he just runs in the ocean to wash off. Like he can't believe I mean, it's just different between like an Imperial Japanese officer and a Marine. It's like Marines don't really have shame, so they don't really care that much about that.
Here, we're just this is the last weapon I have is my urine. How he's urinating if he's that dehydrated, but it makes for a movie.
Just the last grasp of a bladder.
Why this was so horrifying? It probably.
Get this asparagus off me.
Yeah.
They both grab spears and charge at each other, but this is like super weird because they're like, this is taking forever, and then you realize like they're not even in like the same. They're barely in the same general location.
Yeah.
It's kind of just all emotion, and then just Marvin just falls over from exhaustion, I presume. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
He's also seeming like trudging through mud, so maybe that doesn't help when you're completely dehydrated and you got to run through mud. Because it seems more like Mifune's like coming from the beach, so he's got a bit more, stable surface to run on. It starts to rain. Marvin rolls over to catch some rain in his mouth. He gets up and sees Mifune and like is trying to get behind him with his knife, and then just Marvin just passes out again. So again, that's pure exhaustion. The rainstorm passes and Mifune moves through the jungle. He freaks out when he finds Marvin passed out in the mud. Mifune takes his knife off of Marvin, and then he keeps himself from just stabbing a helpless man. So that's like this kind of the first instance of like them.
Well, they're recognizing the futility of what they're doing.
Yeah.
That's kind of a larger theme in this movie. Like, this is futile.
Yeah. And then it's raining again, but Mifune's built like an irrigation network to gather rainwater for drinking, so that's good and smart. So, but it also seems to be like, man, that's a lot of rain. He has Marvin tied to a tree. He's got him tied to a tree branch, but like later on it's like mobile, but here it looks like it's like a part of a bigger tree, but I'm not sure what's going on here. But,
very Christ-like.
Yeah. When we cut to it's night, Mifune's yelling at Marvin in Japanese. He doesn't understand. Cut to it's morning. Mifune's watching for boats. Marvin's walking on the beach. I think he has a blindfold on. He's tied to a log. and he's dragging like these two rocks around, and then Mifune starts messing with him, like throwing stuff around, and he starts chasing the sounds. I'm like, this is super weird because like here it's like Marvin's basically like a zombie. So it's like, so yeah, I don't know if like Marvin's just trying to get exercise or if he's like trying to find something to escape or like what what he is doing is weird. So, take a break. You've been surviving this whole time. Has anybody ever slept on a beach?
I haven't.
Okay.
Haven't slept on sand at all.
Yeah, me neither. I've heard stories of people like basically being beach bums in like Hawaii and just like sleeping on the beach and then walking in the forest and grabbing bananas and then like it's like so you don't have to pay for anything. So,
Yeah.
and then trying to get a job.
Yeah, if I had to be homeless, I'd guess like Hawaii would be the best place.
Yeah.
Or the worst place, I don't know. So there's like weird shit in tropical jungles though that can kill you. Yeah, I don't know what's there.
Yeah, I don't hear about Hawaii necessarily being a deadly place. So I don't know. So
No, probably not. I don't know.
I mean, some of those islands, they just like they don't have the wildlife for that stuff sometimes. So.
Yeah, there's not enough there to. I mean, I just can't imagine. It's like that's like our Iceland. It's like, oh, the volcano's going off again. It's like, oh, do we leave? It's like, no, this is normal. This is, it'll burn your house down. Or you'll have whatever happened a year ago with the firestorm that like destroyed Maui.
Oh, I don't remember
That was a
that.
bunch of scrub grass, like with 70-mile-an-hour winds. Kind of what's going on in California now. It's just a bunch of dead grass and then 100-mile-an-hour winds. Like, well, that's a blowtorch. But in Maui, a bunch of people got killed because it moved so fast.
Mifune is cooking fish. Marvin just stares at him to the annoyance of Mifune, and then Mifune gets up and like starts kicking at him a bit, and Marvin kicks back, and this is just more like childish reactions to each other. Sometime later, Mifune gets back to look for Marvin, and he finds him have moved elsewhere. Like he's just staying around. He's still like tied to the branch, so it's like not doing anything other than being in a different place. Because he goes and like he didn't want to look at him, so he put like this brush obstruction in the way. And then when he goes, he like has like some kind of sudden intuition. And he moves it. It's like, where is he? He's like, he's just over there. So, Mifune goes fishing. He returns to find Marvin's like stock is hanging, and he's got his binoculars on it. So now he's kind of freaked out. And then Marvin just knocks out Mifune, and then suddenly Mifune's hung up on the stock, but like his feet are off the ground. He's kind of like twisting him around. Like this looks way more painful than what Mifune did to him. So, let me cut to Marvin's walking the Mifune. He's got like these sticks stand up, and he's like supposed to like do like a circuit course or something, like go here and then come back and kick down a stick or something like that. I have no idea what's going on here. I'm just only guessing that's what's going on. So.
Yeah, basically, two people are going insane. Is what's going on. Yeah. That's what I gathered.
Well, that's why I said he's walking the Mifune, because later on he tries to treat him like a dog anyway. So this is like his dog training, I'm guessing. So Marvin starts reading his survival guidebook, which I think he reads some caption about like if you discover a POW, just destroy them or something like that.
Yeah, kill them. If you're fighting to survive in the woods, you don't have time for prisoners. I think it says destroy them.
Yeah.
Very specific type.
Yeah, which I don't know if it was a real instruction from it or just Marvin just like came up with it. But.
I don't think they would hand that out. That'd probably a verbal instruction, not a written command.
Yeah. He's trying to teach Mifune to play fetch, which Mifune's just kind of like laughing at because like Marvin just keeps like going into the ocean and picking up a stick with his mouth. He's like, no, you do that. But Mifune doesn't want to do that. Here's where Marvin has a limp, but like I think it eventually goes away. We cut to Marvin is like trying to cook from the survivalist guidebook, and he gets tired of it, and just kind of knocks the food over. It's like, your progress. What are you doing? But anyways, he goes and cuts Mifune loose and just leaves the knife with Mifune. So this is kind of like his gesture at we should probably work together. It's like, if you want to kill me, you can, or we can work together, whatever.
He just hated cooking that much.
Yeah, he set him free in hoping that Mifune would cook. So, and then we got to the next scene. Mifune's combing a sand garden, which then Marvin stomps on, and then Mifune fixes it. So it's just another weird scene.
Yeah,
this
it's
isn't expanded.
Japanese dry gardens.
Yeah.
Yeah, Zen garden.
It's like a way of what do they call that? It's like a way of landscaping where there's not a lot of water or plants. It's just you make patterns in the soil around the rocks or something.
Yeah.
It kind of creates a visual effect.
Oh, right. They have those Arizona and places like rock gardens and stuff like that, where you just hey, you never have to mow the lawn. Yeah, upkeep is permanent. So.
Oh yeah.
But don't fall over in it. That's going to be a bad time. We cut to Mifune's trying to break open a clamshell, which I wonder if this thing was real or staged. I don't know. He's eating some guts out of that thing, and it looks it looks awful. So.
Yeah, it looks like you should boil that first.
Yeah, they have enough firewood, so.
Yeah.
But here it seems like they're starving, so they're because Marvin chases after him, is hey, we're supposed to split that 50-50. Of course, they have no idea what each other are talking about, but which Marvin steals it for a bit, and I think gets a bite out of it, and then Mifune steals it back, and he just kind of lets him. So, it's raining again. You can't see more than 10 feet in front of you with this rain, because they have the scenes often where Mifune's looking out in the ocean trying to see if anybody's out there, and you see this scene, and it's you can't see any of that distance anymore. So, then sometime later, Mifune's scavenging a rock this is the coral reefs he's scavenging. He finds a drawer.
Yeah.
And then we cut to Mifune's trying to build a raft, which Marvin gets mad at because his log is being used. His sleeping log is being used as part of it, so he rips off that part of the raft. And then he comes back and yells at Mifune some more about that's my log. And then he's fine, you can have the log. It's and then he decides yeah, building a raft, that's a good idea. We should do that. And then he starts he picks up the bamboo and he says just says bamboo, and then Mifune picks up on it. And so the next scene, they're go collecting bamboo up in part of the mountain part of this island, and you just see all this bamboo being thrown off the cliff. And just being pushed against the on the ocean water, which is just pushing it towards the beach, so it's perfectly fine. Yeah, and then you cut to the beach is just covered with bamboo. They got all the bamboos. And they start arguing about how they're going to build the raft, but I guess here it'd make more sense that Mifune would build the raft.
Win the argument, kind of, just by through sheer frustration. It's he just throws up his hands okay.
But also, if it's if Mifune's a naval man, then presumably he'd have.
Mifune seems to be the more practical of the two of them.
Yeah,
he has skills, he's getting water, he's doing things like that. But I don't know how long he had been there before and just figured this all out by himself.
Yeah. Yeah, Mifune tries using sign language and angry Japanese to build his case, and then Marvin just kind of capitulates. It's fine, all right. Cut to night. They have a contraption of a raft built on the beach. It's this would have taken forever, but it's suddenly here. I mean, it's pretty substantial for what it is. It's got a bow and it's got 3 oars on it. Which is the one back oar, which I was what are they doing with that? And they're oh, it's it's almost like a fin. And he's rocks it back and forth to push it forward. It's oh, okay, I haven't seen that before on a makeshift raft in a movie. So.
Yeah.
Marvin looks over his map, which he does have a map of the Pacific Ocean, but I don't know if he can is able to determine exactly where he is or not. But
Yeah, that
he
seems
does-
like a one-page map. I don't know how much of the Pacific you can fit on that, or how generalized it is.
Yeah. And then Mifune sharpens his knife and Marvin's K-bar on, or is that coral, or what kind of rock is he using, you know?
It's some kind of rock. I wasn't sure.
Okay. So that being the end of Act 2. Andrew, what do you think so far?
I mean, probably like a piece of coral or something, because I mean, coral's also very sharp as course. So
I just mean, what do you think of the movie so far?
oh, sorry. I don't know. I liked it. I thought it had a lot of good instances of basically conflict resolution, just with obviously them at being very childish and not liking each other and being very much enemies and hating each other like they should, but then eventually just wearing their guard down either through starvation, dehydration, or just sheer wearing themselves out of it, and maybe just like finally giving somebody a chance because they feel like it hasn't worked to this point. So what's the deal?
Finding humanity in an enemy, things like that.
Because they both conversate with each other the same way. They both have just screamed their language at each other, just point at stuff, and then just like it's the same communication system. They're both not willing to compromise and learn anything from the other. They're both just want their way. It's just kind of like what they'll give the other person to keep the relationship going.
Yeah. We're not killing each other, so it must be working.
Yeah.
But also, you see, Mifune's knife is pretty willed down, meaning he's sharpened that thing a bunch of times. Either that, or Japan's doing bad and they gave him a crappy knife to begin with. So, although now you can just find glorious amounts of YouTube videos of Japanese knife makers taking the shittiest knives and turning them into like, oh man, this thing can cut a piece of paper by just a draft of wind. So,
Oh yeah, sometimes I'll watch like Japanese like model building stuff, and it's like, why don't these people rule the world? Absolutely next level stuff they're doing here.
yeah. Total commitment.
Yeah.
No relationships. They're all assassins.
The only people the Mongols didn't never really defeat were the samurai. They were like, oh, these people are crazy. Doing this.
So we have Act 3. They push the raft out into the ocean. They're kind of in between the beach and the reef. They use the bamboo to walk the boat out to the ocean. And then once they get at sea, they use the oars to push the boat. Waves just keep coming up and knocking up against the raft, and it knocks the boat around. But they eventually break through the waves and kind of put up a sail. So they've made it through the, well, not the worst of it, but like that's the first hurdle. So
yeah, there's some kind of, I know I'm not much of a naval guy, but I know like around an island or an inlet, there's like a place where the land starts affecting the water, and it's really rough going. And once you get through that and you're out in open sea, then you don't have to contend with that much. Then it's just typhoons and rogue waves and whirlpools or whatever's waiting out there. But, yeah.
The sharks. At sunset, Marvin's singing some song and paddling the boat. Something about like going to Tennessee or something like that. So,
yeah.
It's morning. They're dealing with the waves again. There's a plane heard overhead. I can't remember. This must be is this night or no? I think it's like cloudy out or something. But
Yeah,
Marvin starts.
It's almost like a fog scene.
Yeah, Marvin starts blowing the whistle, but Mifune grabs the whistle and throws it away. So I don't know if he like didn't want to get saved by an American, or if he thought like if it was Japanese they'd bomb him or something like that. I'm not sure what, or if they thought it was American. But
it's hard to tell what the motivations there were, because these guys are obviously now at some kind of truce.
yeah,
And maybe he was afraid, well, if it's a Japanese thing and we're saved, they'll just kill Marvin. I don't want him to get just shot out of hand.
yeah,
If it's American, as far as the Japanese thing, if it's an American thing, as far as Japanese guys go, well, they'll just shoot me. Which, I mean, even odds that might have happened.
Yeah.
I don't know. But, yeah. So I think it was like a lot of different things were going through his mind at that point.
and like I didn't pick out what kind of plane it was, so maybe he did. So maybe
Yeah.
Because you don't see the plane, you just hear it. So
I just assume it was like they're in such a bad situation. It's like, no, we got to do this together. It's the only way we're going to survive.
yeah.
Because outside forces will bring death to one or both of us.
There's the next day that they're trying to shelter from the sun, back to like them dealing with waves again. The sail comes loose. They have to put that back together. Then it's the next day after that, which they don't seem to have like spare food and water on this thing, so it seems like it's extra desperate. So
Yeah,
I mean, they did put stuff in the drawer, but
Well, I mean, yeah, when they left, there's tied up fish behind them and some other stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, not like.
yeah, it looks like they cooked some fish to.
Fanciful with its survival element. It's because I don't know how they're surviving exactly, but they seem to be.
Yeah.
It's just like it was just like kind of that first season of Lost when it's like, why isn't this really big fat guy losing a lot of weight? It's like, because ranch dressing is being delivered from the sky, but we won't find that out till much later.
It's the next day. Mifune's exhausted, and Marvin puts some cloth over his back to protect him from the sun. We get a montage of the raft and times in the ocean. Marvin sings to himself again. Again, it's just like wave, sun, wave, sun. That's kind of the repeated cycle here.
When I learned, when I read the book about what happened to the guys on the USS Indianapolis, I didn't realize that water in this part of the world, even if you're on a raft or floating on something, it's like bathing in acid. So brackish and so full of salt, it'll start eating layers off your skin. Like even what they were doing, like they would be in really grim shape if this went on for more than a week.
It's the next day again, so they spent like a week on this boat or something. I don't know. They come upon a new set of islands, which they seem excited about, but I'm like, are you excited to be marooned on a different island?
Yeah.
But then smash cut, they're on the island sneaking around, and you see like a watchtower off in the distance. So it's like, okay, somebody's been here. So they're about. But then they find out. I wrote a bombed out airfield because we watched that Godzilla -1. Where they had an airfield. I don't know what's going on. It seemed like a radio thing or just some kind of base.
Yeah.
It seems. I'm not sure if it's Japanese or it's American. I'm not sure. So
you don't know. Well, they find uniforms from both armies. So
yeah. So like, yeah, one captured the other, and then both built a base in the same place. But Mifune starts screaming and runs for the bombed out buildings because there's like a stick sticking out. So I don't know if he thought like somebody was guarding it or something. But there's nobody there. Marvin sees some U.S. equipment, and then he starts chasing after Mifune, like trying to save him from getting shot. So it's like, so that's where he kind of like, okay, yeah, these guys care for each other, even though they're supposed to be killing each other. So, good old, the human existence stuff and situations and what it should all bear down to.
Trials that bind people together.
Yeah.
They don't even have a language or a culture in common.
Yeah. Well, there's even the part where like he kind of uses a slang term. It's like, oh, I thought you were this. It's like, well, he is Japanese, but like he doesn't see him that way.
Yeah, but the term he uses is like, oh, when we call you this, we're shooting at you. I thought you were one of the ones we shoot at. Yeah.
But there's no U.S. or Japanese on this island, so it's like it seems to be completely abandoned. There's also no bodies either, so I guess those were taken away as well.
Yeah, they buried them all.
Yeah, that's true. Marvin and Mifune go through the bombed-out buildings looking for materials. Marvin finds a lantern and some cigarettes. Mifune finds some clothes. Marvin enjoys a cigarette, which I guess these would be Lucky Strikes then. So no filters.
Have a lucky strike.
Mifune looks at a picture of a Japanese lady that he like found in like a like some water hole or something like that. Marvin stares at Women in Life magazine. Like, you see like some lady has some shorts and he's kind of like staring up her thigh, like the shadow on her thigh.
It almost kind of seems like it's a Life magazine that has like porn pages stuffed in it.
Yeah, if you're giving the troops, they entertain the troops. So. I imagine this is a real life magazine they have here. So
yeah, I think it is.
Mifune comes to find Marvin. He's found sake, so like they're gonna have a drink tonight. Mifune finds some scissors in like this like medical facility, and then he tries giving himself a shave. And then Marvin also finds some scissors. Then we cut to the next scene. Mifune pours the sake, and so they have a drink together with like their shaved faces. This is almost like them going on a date or whatever. It's weird. So.
Yeah, because basically has like a wealthy businessman suit and shirt now.
Yeah.
Suitcase.
Um.
And apparently, Lee Marvin found some Japanese clothes that would also fit him, which sounds
that's impossible.
It's like, oh, they must have had a sumo wrestler on there.
Sumo kimono.
Because they're wearing the same shirt.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, wearing the same dress or uniform shirt and same pants. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
And I've seen Japanese guys that are over 6 foot tall, just not very many of them, and probably not during World War II.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, like, yeah, they kind of like Mifune more grimaces at the drink than Marvin does, so, which I feel like that should be the other way around. But I've never had sake, so I don't know if it's really. Everything is like exaggerated in movies about like how hard alcohol is. Because remember, like it's forever. It's like when people drink whiskey in movies. It's like this thing where it's like, oh, somebody poured fire down my throat, and like I had whiskey expecting that to happen. And it's like, what's wrong with people in movies?
Well, I'm gonna guess like older alcohol is much higher proof and less refined than today's alcohol.
Yeah, but it's still even like in modern movies with like it's like Jim Beam or what's the other whiskey?
Jack Daniels.
Jack Daniels, and they're like it's like this hard drink that's like you got to bury yourself to drink it. It's like no, you don't.
No,
that's Jägermeister.
You can get yourself some Johnny Walker Blue Label,
It's $190 a bottle.
Get yourself some Crown Royal.
That's one of my favorites. I have. This is just like it's nostalgia for seeing you guys. I like this a lot too.
Seerage, okay, yeah.
Okay.
I know one of my friends like
people. The real snobs online are like, it's terrible, but to me, it's like, no, I think it's fun. Nice.
I don't really drink alcohol. I've only just like had taste of it. It's like, yep, that's fine. I don't like it, and I obviously don't have like a palate for it. So it's like, what's the best one? It's like probably the cheapest one because I don't care.
Oh, I enjoy it. But I enjoy vodka more than anything.
Yeah.
And that's like nothing. But there are gradations of it, though.
Yeah.
Like there's stuff called Polish potato vodka. If you like vodka, and it's just like Everclear. It's like, no, it's awful.
95% or 190 proof alcohol.
It's only 150. It's not like the full 190 Everclear, but it's so similar in aroma and palate. It's like, I'm not an alcoholic. If this is what's to drink, then I'm not drinking it. This is awful.
I know a friend who likes Knob Creek as a whiskey. I think that's a whiskey.
It's very good.
And it's not crazy expensive.
No,
it's got an eccentric kind of square bottle. So
my summer drink is my Hemingway cask strength rum, which it's 172 proof, but because it's rum and it's formulated differently, like you're drinking some hard stuff. It hits you like that white liquor, that White Lightning Everclear type nonsense.
Yeah,
more it's a different thing. You only need a little bit goes a long way. You don't sit around and just power that down because you'll end up in the hospital. It'll hurt you.
Yeah, the one time I got drunk, I let a Marine friend it's like, we need to get you drunk, Murphy. I'm like, okay. And I won a game of Trivial Pursuit, so I was like, it works. Oh, it's sad too because I'm totally like funner to be around when I'm drunk. So it's like, I know that it's like, nah, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be fun. So, I was afraid I'd be a mean drunk, like just now my real feelings come out, but like no, I was just kind of everything had kind of a glow to it, but like the
Yeah,
first
no,
drink,
it's fun.
the first drink that we went to a restaurant and I had like a drink called a Blue Lantern. It was basically vodka that tastes exactly like blue Powerade. It's like, oh, this is dangerous. Give me 3 of these.
The movie that I find that most describes drinking that I used to do with the neighbors, which is what I would call super destructive, is the is it the Robert Eggers movie, The Lighthouse? It's like that's insane drinking. Like, I've never drank like lamp oil, but I've drank like so much where you just vomit and you're like, oh, let me wash this out of my mouth with more booze, and then up 3 days later, like, where am I? And people don't ever act the same towards you. It's like, what happened? I don't remember. But as long as you don't wake up with car keys, you're fine. Where you are with car keys, it's like, uh-oh, how did I get here? What did I run over on the way?
Yeah, I've only gotten drunk once. I never went blackout, so I saved myself from that situation.
I haven't blacked out since my early 30s. It's over 20 years at this point now. So I don't do that anymore because I think I would actually kill myself if I did that again. Because I was sick for days. Like I wasn't hungover for the next day. I was like, I'm not getting out of bed. 3 days. And the other guy was even worse. He like almost lost his job. He couldn't make it back to work. And of course it became, if we can't pay our bills, it's your fucking husband. It's like 120-pound man tried to drink me under the table. It's just like there's a lot of
science was not in your favor.
Yeah. I can't believe you encouraged him to do that. It's like,
hey, it's freedom both sides here.
I'm hurting too, lady.
We cut to they're drinking over a fire. Mifune starts singing. He gets emotional while he's singing. Marvin like knocks over some stuff, which I thought he did this like on purpose at first, but he apologizes. So,
I think he did it on purpose and apologized. That's the vibe.
Oh, okay. All right.
Because he was like, he did not like what he was hearing, and it's like, I got to do something before I freak out. Feeling some kind of emotional knife edge.
They have some more drinks. Mifune grabs the Life magazine. He sees like a Japanese soldier on the front, and then he sees like pictures of dead Japanese soldiers and people being taken in prisoner. So then he gets like, he gets all incensed about that. It's like, oh, like things aren't going as well as I thought. I hope they were. So. Or he's just being like brought back to the reality. It was like, oh yeah, we're supposed to be enemies. And then Marvin's just off like wondering why Mifune doesn't believe in God, which is all coming. There's also just like war sounds growing in the distance that I have no idea if they're supposed to be real. Apparently the original ending of this movie is more specific to like, I guess they were real, but
yeah.
Here it's just kind of like, it seems more psychological than actual warfare going on.
Yeah, you don't know if this is like what's in their minds or what's really going on.
Yeah. Which is like, that's typical Borman stuff. So. Or at least Point Blank Borman. I've only seen Deliverance once, so I don't know about that, or his other movies. So I don't know if he keeps doing like the kind of like psychological fake outs in the rest of his movies.
He does. Some of it's a little more subtle, but yeah, he does.
Oh, okay. Tension grows between the two as they slowly become enemies again. Marvin grabs his backpack and starts to leave. Mifune gets dressed and prepares as well to leave. It's sunrise now. Marvin walks off in the distance, and then Mifune like kind of spiffies up his suit, which I thought he was looking in a mirror. I'm not sure. He's just kind of looking off in the distance, and then he stands tall and he walks out of frame. And that's the end of the movie. So,
that's the John Borman ending. That's the ending he shot.
I heard there's like a European cut where like they just, a bombing comes and like kills both of them or something like that. So
about at the point he kicks over the fire and then starts asking him, what is it about you guys not believing in God? And that kind of escalates and escalates. and then there's like an explosion, and it's
Okay.
dead. That was the producers of the movie changed the ending because they thought it was more conducive to what the story was, of like the randomness of war bringing people together, and then they just randomly die because they're in a war
Yeah.
zone. And it's a crappy ending. I think it's better that they walk off into the sunset in their own directions, because you
Yeah.
don't know what the future might hold. They might end up fighting.
Oh, yeah, it's all on you, like what happened. It's probably not positive things happen. So.
Yeah, usually, yeah. The Pacific War between America and Japan was like our Eastern Front. It was, some really bad stuff went on there, and I mean, we invented the flame throwing tank to fight those things. It was like that's how bad it got. It's just like, we're just using fire. So,
Yeah.
but the Japanese were also like just embedded in tunnel networks and just killing thousands of Americans. It's like, yeah, we're just using napalm and fire to get these guys out. It's like that might not make anyone feel well, but they're dead sons. They're not going to make them feel
Thank
well.
God there's not social media around.
Those cameras off, boys. You're not like what's coming.
So yeah, it's a very like yeah, when I saw the trailer for the movie, I was like, oh, is this like Enemy Mine before Enemy Mine? And I'm sure there's probably like other like stranded together movies before this, but
Enemy Mine was actually adapted by Wolfgang Peterson from a book written about an alien and a human fighting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but this does have some very similar. I think Wolfgang Peterson acknowledges this movie
Okay.
in the audio or the director's commentary on Enemy Mine. But yeah, no, that was actually based on a book, which might have been based on this movie. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, it's similar concepts though.
Yeah. There's a
Yeah,
flood.
I never heard of this movie before, so I was like, it was neat to see it, kind of see late '60s production and them trying to do something different. So
Yeah, and doing something different.
yeah,
And bringing in like because we like the Kurosawa films, and
Yeah.
John Borman was influenced by those films and got one of the biggest star from those films. It's like, let's make a movie, and then he watched him beat the translator to a pulp and be kind and courteous to him. This is like, which is a very Japanese thing too. It's like, yeah, it's the person that actually understands what they're saying to me. I'm going to slap him around and scream at him. But the other guy, I'm going to be like, yes,
he's in charge. I'll be polite to you.
him, but
The middleman gets beaten.
Yeah, which seems very Japanese to me. So.
Yeah. Well, we're sending a probe into space containing a supercut of the scenes from the imperfect collection of the movies that are the Verhoeven Effect. Nathan, what one scene from this movie are we shoving into space?
Where they're running at each other supposedly in the woods with spears. Because it encapsulates the whole movie. It's like you don't really know what's going on, and neither do they. It's like, that's weird. I guess it makes sense. This movie is all like style and metaphor, and
Yeah.
and that's what it is. It's not.
Oh, yeah, this is definitely a bring your own movie.
There is no coherent A to B linear logic to this at all. I mean, you can go so out there with this. It's like, did any of this ever happen?
Yeah.
Is this like, are they doomed to repeat this forever in purgatory circle? Because it has all those elements.
Yeah, Mifune was just a log on the beach the whole time.
Yeah, you could do that. Mifune, walked the path of Christ for a while, and that's why it was important, because he was, he had to walk around in the stock for a while. And
Yeah.
important in the end that Lee Marvin was.
I guess I missed all the Christian imagery and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, it was all that stuff. Because why was it suddenly important for Lee Marvin to like, do you guys believe in God? They told me you don't believe in God, and it's like, why would that be important to him all of a sudden? All the things he asked him in a language he does not understand. He will not, be sharing complex concepts with each other with no common language, but yet it's like, it's important now. I must.
Yeah, it seemed like he was trying to find a way to like hate him again, and like, you're my enemy, so I'll do it through God. It's just like all good Christians. I'm gonna find my hate through Jesus.
Which is actually, if you read, like, because I read through like pamphlets and propaganda at the time that were given to like U.S. soldiers, that was a thing. It was like The rising sun, the land of the rising sun is a land without God. There's actually a pamphlet that says that. It's like these are godless heathens that do not value human life. And I mean, the worst kind of propaganda you could imagine we had out. But then when you watch these guys like, oh, these people did the Bataan Death March and all the things they did in China, it's like, it's not a big stretch when you start putting those things together. It's like, these guys are evil. We need to like split atoms up and napalm right now. It's all makes sense.
You can find it.
Like the coolest culture we ever conquered. It's like they'll do wild, cool, fun stuff all the time.
Yeah. You can find us at Letterboxd.
Going, out of existence. That's going to be a
not in our lifetime. It's okay.
Yeah, see it.
You can find us on Letterboxd username VHE. 1 out of 5 stars, Nathan. What are we giving this movie?
I'm going to give this movie a solid 4 stars for effort.
Okay.
It's definitely not a perfect 5. It's not for everyone. Watch it for 15 minutes. If you don't like the first 15 minutes, just go ahead and turn it off. You're not going to like the rest of it. But if you can find something, kind of groovy and cool about the 60s production quality and some of the really weird, like, high concepts they were trying to throw in, it might be worth your while. But don't throw it on in front of the family and like let's all gather around and be entertained. It's not one.
I think it's like, is it like an hour and 42 minutes? So it's not that long.
Yeah, I thought.
But it feels long just because of how how the movie is. But
beautifully shot movie too. Great sound design, great shooting.
Yeah, and this YouTube listing of it or whatever, it looks good. It's at 720p, but it still looks good. So well, you can find us at VerhoevenEffect.com. There we have listener support. You can support us at a monthly stipend of 99 cents, $4.99, and $9.99. Cancel any time. You can rate our podcast on whatever platform of choice. You can rate us whatever you want, but the only thing the algorithm listens to is the highest rating. So remember, give us the highest rating so we can confuse the algorithm and stay one step ahead of our machine overlords. You can find us at Twitter at Verhoeven Effect. You can find us on Blue Sky Social at Verhoeven Effect. You can find us on Facebook at Verhoeven Effect. And you can find us on YouTube at American Greed Factory and watch both this and that show live and unedited. So for the Verhoeven Effect podcast, I'm Colin.
And I'm Nathan.
Andrew.
Goodbye, America.